for tuning in. I'll try to make this review as quick as I can on this KTM 390 Adventure. So first up, we'll just check how many kilometres I've put on the clock. It's about the rain shortly, so I'll have to make it fast. I put 272 k's in 2 days of riding. By the time I get back home today, it'll be 300 k's, so I'll give you a bit of a rough idea what I think of the bike. So overall, I've had a bit of a chance to get out, do a couple of long runs, and overall impressions. I'll give you the good points on the bike and a couple of sort of niggle areas, and I'll swing over the niggle side of the parts first, and we'll get those out of the way and you'll know what happened in that direction. Okay, right from the very start, I had a slight problem with finding the neutral on the bike. So, like I said, in the beginning I had a little bit of trouble with the neutral finding. After now around about 270 kilometres, it's nowhere near as hard to find as what it was in the beginning. So the neutral side of things has picked up quite well. So it's improving as time goes by. Where I struggled a little bit to find neutral, no trouble at all. Something else a new rider might find when they get on this bike is when you get to the gear shifter, you'll probably find that it's recessed in a little bit, and you might find that you might miss that shifter a few times, and I did in the beginning, and it's similar to what you get onto a 650 Interceptor, and you will find that you might have to put your, or angle your toe in a little bit towards the shifter, and that'll solve that problem there. So that was another minor issue I had with it. Some people have talked about vibration with these bikes. In all honesty, I don't think the vibration is much of a problem with this bike. I find it very low in the vibration. When I first took it for that first run, I found it was a little bit strong in the foot pegs, but once again with 270 k's or pushing 300, the vibration has sort of ceased a bit. It's still there in the foot pegs, but I haven't come back from any runs and got back there and had any like hand numbing or anything like that, so the vibration level on this bike is really fairly low, I would say. So there's no need to be concerned with the vibration because it's something that's not going to affect you. And I actually thought the vibration was worse on a well, my Interceptor's got a bit of vibration in it, so you know, it's not perfect in that line. But if you want to know what would be the biggest niggle, you could say, I've found so far, doesn't matter what gear you're in, whether you're in first or whether you're in sixth, this bike is a little bit dead under 4,000 revs in any gear, and that would be the major drawback, if anything. So nothing much happens under 4,000 revs in any of the gears. So if you were going to go off-road, or mainly off-road riding, you'd have to do something in that line. And I have heard stories where you can put a 14 tooth on the front and that'll fix up that problem on the front cob, and that'll solve that problem for you. But at this stage, that would be the biggest niggle, because sometimes if you're in the wrong gear and go to accelerate, it's dead. Okay, now we look at the positive sides of this bike, and there's been a lot of positives because I've had no trouble at all. I'd say the biggest plus I would like about this bike, one of them anyway, was the throttle. The throttle on this bike, ride by wire, is without a doubt one of the best ones I've ever used. Now there's no throttle lag, so you can apply the throttle at any speed. It'll roll on, roll off. There's no jerkiness or anything like that, which is associated with sometimes on the newer bikes, or the way they tune them now. They're going up the Euro 6s and stuff like that, and it's really a pleasure to use. So it's a really nice throttle, so you can just roll her on, roll her off, and it'll take off. And even if you're cruising along and you're over that 4,000 rev mark and you're sitting on 50 mile an hour or 80 kilometres and want to go to 106, you just roll the throttle on, it'll take off up to that, no trouble whatsoever. The seat itself, not bad to sit on. I haven't come back with any numb bum or something like that. I find it good to sit on, it's fine. One thing I can say about the slipper clutch on this particular bike is one of the best slipper clutches I've ever used. It is really fast going, whether you're either going up through the gears or down through the gears, especially down working on slipper clutch, and it's faultless, and you can go from 6 down to second gear really quick. No worries about rear wheel lock-up or causing you any drama or any safety issues, and it's a pleasure to use. And one day I'll have to get out there and give it a bit of a workout but I'm running out of battery power now, so that'll ruin that one, but it's a thought I can do later on. The vibration on these ones are just minimal, so I haven't come back. You don't really feel it, so there's no long-term effect from the vibration. The handling of the bike, now the handling of this bike, I would class it this way. Say for example I was out along the road and I was lucky enough to be able to ride both bikes. If I was on this particular bike here and I saw myself up ahead on the Interceptor, I would be able to get past me very easy. That's how good this bike handles. It's so flickable with the weight. I think it's about 35 kilos or so lighter than an Interceptor, but it's just a lot better handling bike. It really handles well, and it handled that well today. I was giving it that tour out around these bends, and I was on a really swinging bends where I come up to a really sharp corner, and I'd been on that road several times. More than several. I'd been on that road riding it for the last on and off 8 years. And I come up the one bend and I went through a left and right bends, probably 6 or 8, one after the other. And I didn't realise what speed I was travelling at. And I arrived at the last bend, which was a really sharp right hairpin. And I come into that at 100 kilometres an hour, 60 mile an hour. And I had to then brake to get around the corner because I arrived at that corner that quick compared to the bikes I'd been riding, that I was too fast for the corner. And lucky I've got this really top quality braking system on this bike, and all the other stuff that goes with it, or I might have found myself in a bit of trouble today with this particular bike, and I was thankful I had what I had because it picks up pace so well between one bend to the other that, you know, it's really a great bike to ride. So that bit aside. And plus, you know, the tyres too. The tyres, what they come standard with, must be pretty good for what they are. I don't know what this bike would be like off-road bike, because I'd say with that deadness under 4,000 revs, you know, I don't think run with a Himalayan in the scrub, for example, or the 250 Honda. But, you know, for a dual purpose, if you want to run along here or up along this dirt road, which I may try at a later date, you know, that's a totally different story, and I think it'd handle it well. So like I mentioned earlier, these Bye-Bye 4-pot brakes, I think they are, which are on these, are way better than what's on the Interceptor. The Interceptor ones I find are a little bit dead or woody at times when you hit them, but these ones here definitely outbrake that. What's available standard equipment on the Interceptor, so they've put really good set of front stoppers on this with the ABS and all the electronics that run with it. I've had no trouble, no word from the radiator. I haven't heard it come on since I've had it during the virtually, say, first 300 k's. That's been good. I find the power adequate for this bike, so it's got good power. I've never had any trouble when I come out and start it. Just press the button, give it a minute or so to warm up, and I'm ready to roll. This windscreen, like the wind has stopped at the moment because we're coming into a storm, and you know the wind usually drops and it starts. But I find the windscreen's really good. I've been out in some really strong winds during the first 300 k's, cut through the wind really nice, so it does that job really well. Doesn't seem to affect it that much when I'm riding along the road. The handguards, I'm not sure, and I've never had a bike with handguards on them. I'm not sure if they're at the right angle or whether they should be up a bit higher or not, but seeing I was riding with gloves on, I'm just not sure if they're in the right position or not. The mirrors, no trouble with the mirrors. I have no trouble seeing out what's behind me at either 60, 80 or 100 kilometres an hour, so no vibration through the mirrors, no shakiness, so they too are good in that area. So overall I think it's a pretty smart little bike to ride. One thing I do like about when you're riding along, when you light up the display net, I do like the part that you can look down and see what gear you're in. So the gear indicator's a big plus. The other stuff doesn't really matter. Oh yeah, I do like the digital speedo. It's very easy to read that too, so whatever speed you're doing at, plus the gear indicator, you know, that's a plus in that line. The overall style of the bike, it looks really smart. Like I said, I like the matte orange effect. It runs that well out along the road when you're cruising at around about 60 mile an hour now, or 5,800 revs. It's just like it's idling along. I don't know what I'm getting on fuel economy. I haven't checked that at the moment, but I'll probably look into that at a later date. While we're talking gear, the gear changer here, in the overseas models the quick shift is standard, Now in Australia I think I was told that it's a $300 option, but you wouldn't want a quick shifter on one of these bikes anyway, because the gear change is that silky smooth and quick that I think a quick shifter would just spoil the opportunity and of enjoying a good gear change. And more importantly, from what I've seen or read, that the quick shifter is not what you call a faultless operator, and it's been causing a bit of drama with gear changes anyway, so you'd probably be wasting your money in that line going for the quick shifter until they iron out the faults with it, or until at least it's working properly. I'll probably get into it and take it out and maybe on the next run and see what it's like running along one of these dirt roads, see how that goes. I haven't actually gone to any trouble to worry about adjusting these forks. I really don't know what I'd do as far as adjusting those. I've never had a bike with adjustable front forks, so I haven't bothered touching those. I would have had some really nice cornering footage on my other camera earlier on today, because this is my second trip out, only I hit the corners a little bit quick and something went wrong. My camera fell off and down it went on the road at I think around 80-85 kilometres an hour, and the SD card flew out of that, lost the battery. I don't know if the camera's any good or not, but I lost all the images in that camera because it wasn't turned off properly and the file was corrupted or something after I actually spent 10 minutes and found it. So, but overall I've had a fair bit of fun on this bike for 300 kilometres, and I think it's one of the best handling bikes I've ever brought into the yard as far as handling goes. The rear shock, since that dealer adjusted it on its lower setting, I find that when I'm running back roads here, what I've been running on previous bikes, mainly Enfields and that I can hit the same bumps where I'd get off the seat on an Enfield, for example, and run over the same bumps with no trouble. So when people say, bikes ride rough, it just depends on what bike you're riding, and I find at this stage this handles that sort of work I've been riding on at the moment pretty good. So overall I think this is a pretty good package for the 9,000 I paid for it in Australia. Going back through some of those corners earlier on today on the other run, I was really surprised how well this bike flicks from one bend to the other and how easy it is to control. I will say one thing, but when you look at these handlebars, see how wide they are. I did find this morning when I got up after that 130 kilometre run yesterday, I was a bit sore in the shoulders, and I think that's from the span of those handlebars. You notice how far you're pulling your arms out to get a grip of those bars. But as far as once you're out there riding the bike, it's still pretty comfortable riding the bike with those bars at that width. And you might be able to pick it up here, it's a bit wider. Haven't tried the headlight or anything like that because I haven't been out at night time. But overall, I think that's about all I can say about it. After putting 300 kilometres on it, that's a fairly honest way to look at what's happened so far, and I've got a good idea of what's happened on the bike and the few minor things. I haven't bothered taking the rubbers off the pegs either, I've just left them on as standard. I've been riding now with the boots on instead of running shoes, and I find I'm a little bit taller now when I sit on the bike. I could probably sit on that bike now and show you. Although that's not, you can see it now, I'm sitting on the bike. I'm almost close to flat foot. Yeah, so overall things are looking good. This is the exact spot I parked the 390 Duke I had 9 months back. And speaking of KTM Duke, if you said to me, or if you were asking me which would be the better bike between this 390 Adventure or the Duke, I only rode the Duke same area what I'd just come up a while ago, 43 kilometres. I would say the Duke is more agile and a better handling bike, and you sort of lean on the Duke more over the front wheel compared to this bike. So in your Duke you sit in the Duke and ride it, where this bike you sit on and ride it. And I think the Duke would be classed as a better handling bike than this one. And this one's a very good handling bike, and I think one of the pickier bikes I've ever brought into the yard as far as handling. And I think it'd surprise you if somebody come up behind you in one of these, how quick they can move it along and how fast they can move it through a corner. Now while I'm at it, some people have mentioned on reviews and that they don't like the cast wheels on the bike, but I'll never be doing any serious off-road work, so that won't affect me. So I do believe KTM are going to bring out a wire spoked option at a later date, which might help those people. So that's an option there for if somebody's looking at these bikes and say the alloy wheels or whatever they call them ruin it. But so, you know, if you're looking at it that way and you think that ruins it, well, they'll bring out at a later date the set of wires, but once again they'll charge you for that option, and it's just something you've got to pay for if you want that option. So class, this is a bit of a wrap up for today's mini review at 300 kilometres on the bike, and I'll catch up to you at a later date and just tell you how the bike's performing then. So once again, thanks for tuning in, take a look, catch you later.